Okay. I waited till exactly 1 because I think they're taping this session, and I think it starts automatically at 1. I don't know. If you order the tapes and some of this is missing, you'll know it didn't start at 1. Okay? And then they said we have to read this at every session so they'll know what it is. It says good morning, but that's wrong already. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 35th CALLERLAB Convention. Today is March the 17th, St. Patrick's Day, 2008. And this is the Caller Associations session. My name is Skip Brown. I'm from Portland, Maine, and I'm going to be your moderator today. And your panelist is from Arlington, Texas, Miss Deborah Carroll-Jones. And I thought we'd start out by each one of us talking a little bit about our particular caller associations, then opening it up to the floor. And if you looked at the handout we've got there, if we do everything in order, maybe we'll find out what constitutes a successful caller association. I belong to an association that meets about 8 or 9 times a year in Manchester, New Hampshire, called Tri-State Caller Association. It's nearing 50 years in existence, and there's probably 35 to 40 members in it. It goes up and down every year. Everything cycles. We're very, very active in New England calling. Our organization is very civic-minded. We have a Square Dance Foundation of New England. It's housed in the same building where we have our meetings. And they have a wealth of information and data and records and photographs and books and equipment, everything like that. And our callers go in and periodically help them catalog things, move things. Right now they're in the midst of digitizing photos so that they'll be saved for history. And then once a year, the association puts on a new dancer hoedown. It's limited to the first 40 calls on the list. There are no star tips, no plus tips. We have one round in between. And this year we had 27 squares of new dancers. The proceeds we donate to the Square Dance Foundation of New England to offset their expenses. Okay? And my association has an awful lot of callers that are active nationally. We've got a former chairman of the Board of Governors of CALLERLAB, and we've now got 3 current members of the Board of Governors that are in CALLERLAB. We also are very involved in the New England Square and Round Dance Convention. We program the halls, we program the callers, we do the sound and things like that. Most of the members have been members for a long time. You know, we don't have many new callers coming in, but we do have a couple of new ones that are very active. And everybody enjoys mixing and mingling. We've callers that have called for 50 years and some that have called for 2 years. And everybody gets along very well. They help each other out. They're not afraid to ask questions. They're not afraid to answer questions. It's a very warm and friendly and supportive group. Every time you attend a meeting, you get a point. Every 12 months, all the points go in a bucket. If I attend 5 meetings, I get 5 points. Then they have a raffle. They draw 3 names out and they award scholarships to attend educational things, CALLERLAB or a New England Council of Caller Associations clinics or a caller school. And a lot of times the more experienced callers that have been there 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, and have got 8 or 9 points, a lot of chances to win a scholarship, will say, don't put my name in this year. Let's leave it out so that some of the newer callers have a better chance of winning. And that's very, very nice, very generous. You know, it's not a lot of money, about $150, but still every little bit helps. And I think it's very, very nice that some of our more senior members forego that chance. And I can't really think of anything else except I really enjoy being a member of the Caller Association, Tri-State. Miss Parnell? Miss Jones?
Thank you, Skip. How many of you, just by a show of hands, belong to a local callers association? Okay. When I first began to call, it was an exciting thing to join a callers association. They had programs in place to help new callers. They had the apprentice program, and there was workshops that they had where we would go and we would learn how to teach or use a certain call. And the busier that I became as a working caller, the fewer of those particular meeting times I still had available. So therefore, and I had even been the workshop chairman for this Callers Association for about a year and a half. But the busier I got as a working caller, the less time was on my schedule to attend local meetings. And what ended up happening is they had a rule in their constitution that if you missed more than 2 meetings in a row, you were bounced. You were out. So I got kicked out. And that just didn't really excite me to try to be of service after that. So I poured all of my heart and soul into CALLERLAB. Well, when I married John and moved to Texas, I mean, all of you know my husband, John Jones. You know he's former chairman of the board. You know he's a milestone recipient. La, 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 la. You could name his credentials ad nauseum. But I was floored because the first thing that we did after I moved there was I had to join the North Texas Callers Association and the State Callers Association, local, quote-unquote, callers associations. I was very surprised. He went to all the meetings that he was in town to go to. Sat up there just like everybody else, learning and taking notes and doing whatever he could do. And I was very impressed. And it made me look at a local association a little bit differently. So I sat in the back for a couple of years at the association meetings, and then somebody did the magic thing. They came up to me and asked me to do something, because I didn't volunteer. I mean, I was going to the meetings. I was just a regular person sitting back there. And they came up and they asked if I would edit the State Callers newsletter. And I gave most of you a copy of the current copy of the State Callers quarterly newsletter. It comes out 4 times. If you didn't get one, I only have 1 copy left. I'd like to refer to it for this session. I'm happy to give it to you when I'm done, and I can certainly PDF it to you if you would like to have a copy. So I was asked to participate, and I found that that's sort of a magic thing. If you come and you show up, that's one thing, but most of us are not going to jump up anymore and say, I'll do it. But if somebody walks over and looks us right in the eyeball and says, will you? We go, okay, and we'll go ahead and volunteer because we've been asked. Those of you that just spontaneously volunteer, God bless you. But I was asked. Then along with that newsletter, all of a sudden I found out that meant I had to be secretary. So all of a sudden I was an officer in the Texas State Callers Association. And then if you hold one officership, you move up the ranks, which is probably pretty common in most associations. And this year, I'm president of that State Callers Association. Now, I've seen presidents before me who had good working agendas and accomplished things, and I've seen presidents before me who did absolutely nothing. And I have also seen that at the local level as well. So what I wanted to do today was to come here and tell you guys some things that I have seen, borrowed, looked for to see how I wanted to do this better, to make our association something that people wanted to belong to. Because what I hear, and this irks me, but I hear people say, well, I'll say, hey, you belong to Texas State Callers Association. Well, no, what's it going to do for me? And I want to go, drink. I think their thinking is skewed. I always think of ask not what your country can do for you, okay? So anyways, one of the things I wanted to do was put out a quality newsletter into everybody's hands. Put something with a new look, some meat to it, some humor in it. And the first thing I did was look around to see who else was doing something like that. And where I got a lot of my guidance was from the GCA. The Gay Callers Association puts out an outstanding newsletter. And I began to tear this apart and study it. And I've written articles for this. You know why? Guess. They asked. Exactly. They asked me. So I started asking folks in the Texas State Callers Association to do certain things. And I had no one ever turn me down. And all of them have done a really good job because I'm kind of like a little terrier on their heels, wanting to get things done according to a certain timeline. I don't like to be a nag, but I found that kind of comes along with the job description. I have to keep on their case. And it's just something that I've had to accept. Now, a couple of the things that we were able to implement, and I don't know if you have state callers associations where you folks are from, but this was an idea that had been pecked at for 5 years. And it's finally come to fruition, and that is that the state of Texas now has a Texas Callers Hall of Fame. And that may be something a local association can do, but I think it has more weight if it comes from the entire state. However, the local associations need to have input, okay? They know the people that are stars in their area. And so we had to develop a list of criteria. We had to develop a nomination form. We had to develop guidelines for the executive board to review these, and they're in here. If you wanted to look for the nomination form, it's in the newsletter. It's always included now in the newsletter. But the first induction that we inducted 3 callers. There were actually 14 names. 5 of those 14 names, guys and gals, were still alive. So in my way of thinking, we needed to move quickly and get this thing going. So we inducted, there were 3 of them that we could get together at the same time. And in September, we inducted Jim Brower, 91 years old, got him inducted. And we got Al Tex Brownlee inducted. He was 87. He has, in February, passed away. And I'll tell you something, his Hall of Fame certificate was right there at his service by his casket. That's how important it was to him. That's how much it meant. And number 3, we inducted Marshall Flippo. And in the interim, we got him inducted, but we still didn't have an award. So I've just gotten that all finished. We got a beautiful actual standalone award to give them, and a really nice lapel pin. Have you seen the CALLERLAB pins that say calling 25 years or calling 50 years? I went with that company. I was able to get 50 pins, which should see us until the earth blows up. But the cost for those 50 pins was only $130, and it was a custom design. Awesome. So they can have their lapel pin. About the same size, and it says Texas Callers Hall of Fame. The center of it is red, and then there's a star because you know Texas is a Lone Star state. So I'm very excited that we got that accomplished, and that we can start recognizing and inducting very deserving callers in our state. Now, what about our local Callers Association? Well, I haven't seen a whole lot done recently, and it's made me really sad. In my way of thinking, you have to have a reason to ask people to come together. If I'm going to give up my Sunday afternoon, I want there to be a reason. And if there's poor pre-planning, it's going to be a poor meeting. If there is no notice, the meeting will be, if there's no nag alert, and that's what I call everything that comes from me is a nag alert. This meeting is going to be such and such a time. If no one has asked anyone to present anything, no one's going to jump up and volunteer. Somebody has to ask. So we have new leadership that's coming in right now, and I'm pleased. I know this gentleman very well. He's a good leader, and he has been frustrated with this treading water, actually losing ground that the association has kind of done recently. And I presented an idea that I took from a local callers association in the Wichita area of Kansas, and I'll tell you guys about this. This is a brilliant idea. I don't believe it can be done on a state level. I think it has to be done on a local level. Anybody out there have trouble sometimes keeping dancers for the last tip? Okay, what liar out there has never had that problem? They go home a little early, don't they? And they miss the last tip. Well, they realized this was a kind of a problem in their area. And have you noticed if you shorten the dance time, they still leave early? Okay, so the Callers Association got together, and what they decided to do was every caller in the association that wanted to participate signed up to participate, and every one of them has their own little dangle that has their initials on it. Charlie's would be CF, okay, and Mike's would be MO. Mine would be DCJ. And you can make whatever color you wanted, but they were all the same size, and the initials were on it. The only way a dancer could receive that dangle is to be there after the last tip was over. The object was to collect everyone who participated dangle. And then once a year, the Callers Association sponsors a dinner and a dance, and all of those dancers who have collected all those dangles And even the Cures have them. They were treated to that dance, and it was a huge success. And it has made the people, it gives them a reason to stay for the last tip if they don't have that guy's dangle or that Cures dangle. So it's been a very, very successful program that they've been using in Kansas, and I wanted to make sure and pass it on to you today. Hopefully you can put that to use. Excuse me. If you have a constitution, bylaws, anything like that for your organization, when's the last time it's been updated? 2 years, last year? Excellent. You update your bylaws every meeting?
That's the main thing our association does. And discuss why we don't have any more members.
Okay. All right.
We went to a mission statement.
Okay, and we have a mission statement now. Very good. One of the things that our local association has done that I think is excellent, if you have some money in your treasury, which the Texas State Callers Association is rolling in dough at the moment, we grant $500 scholarships. We upped our scholarship amount to $500. And the local association, bless their hearts, they give out grants. They also can give out some scholarships to caller schools, but what they've started putting their money towards is clubs who want a little bit of extra money to help recruit or fund their classes. And they can turn to the local callers association and they can get some money from them. $200 is the amount that they put, the max they put on the grants. And they're able to maybe use 8 of them or 6 of them or whatever they have at that point in time. It's kind of first come, first serve to get there to get a little bit of help. And as president, I plan on spending some of the money that we have. I've already spent it for the last couple of years by getting some very good callers to come in and do wonderful presentations, callers clinics. The Callers Association provides the lunch, and then they get entrance into the dance that night for free. All the callers that came to the dance, the caller who came to do the clinic calls the dance that night. And the club that I went to help me put this on got behind us 1,000%. And we're very excited, and we're hoping we would do it every single year. And then I had another club in the area who got a little upset and said, could you share the wealth? You know, a little bit like, let us do it next year. And I said, gee, that's a great idea. Unfortunately, I'm not the one in charge of it for next year. And I'm not. It's the vice president's job. But that's something to keep in mind, you know, is to kind of help to put some of that money back. I believe that the bylaws and constitution should be updated about every 5 years. I think they need to be looked at. I've got a committee. I asked them, would you guys please, you know, tidy this up and look at this, see if we've got any weird little loopholes? If we don't, fine, but at least we've looked at it, and it's not just sitting on a shelf somewhere. It's active. I think I've pretty much covered. Oh, one thing about the newsletter. I love to do this kind of stuff. I love the graphics. I love the photos. I love putting this together. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it, or I wouldn't do it. If you're going to put out a document, be sure it looks professional. And if you have somebody in your organization who is a good proofreader, once I have stared at this for 2 weeks, I can't see anything anymore. Just sitting here with it in front of me, I'm going, that apostrophe isn't in the right place when I've just been looking at it now. So I pass it on to John, and he goes over it with a fine-tooth comb. Then I get it back and I look at it again. You have to have somebody be able to proofread it, and I don't mean hit spell check. You have to have somebody who can read and has some sort of an idea of how the English language is supposed to come together to be proper. So I take advantage of that very, very much so. And I'm very proud of this document that we put out every quarter. We also have a new website, which you would see when you look through the newsletter. I kept the website for a while. All of my website stuff that I've ever learned how to do is all hard code. I'm not I don't use an editor. So therefore, to use templates and stuff like that, I just didn't do that. Well, one of the guys in our club is a webmaster extraordinaire, and he took over the website, which I was more than happy to pass it on. And he's set up a very interactive sort of a website. Now, you realize that the Texas State Callers Association doesn't have a building for us to have pictures of the the Hall of Famers or anything like that. Kind of like CALLERLAB, we don't have a building for our milestone winners and stuff, but we have a virtual hall on the web. So we've got the space set up for it. Now that I just got the awards the day before we left to come here, my webmaster said take pictures of the awards, of everybody's award. And so you can read their name and the date, so I can put that up there. I can put their name, their face up there, their picture. I can put a biography up there. We're also going to institute a guest book. How cool is that? So people can go and say, hey, I danced to you 20 years ago, love you, whatever they want to write in the guest book. And then that recipient can go there and read those notes and know that people know what the honor is that he or she has received. So that's what I have to share about a successful Callers Association thus far. And my hope was that you folks have come here with things to share that is working for your association, or even on the other side, let's open it up and ask if you've got a particular situation, if somebody has something they can share that might give you a little bit of guidance in a certain area. So I'm going to open it up to the moderator to do what he wants to do.
Kind of makes you want to move to Texas, doesn't it? Okay, very, very well said. Really. Now let's hear from you.
And we have
Yes. It should be on. It should have. No. It's just throw another switch.
Well, Charlie, please do. Someone who's...
Do. It's on now. All righty. Is your caller association successful? What does it do for you? What does it do for the activity? What keeps you interested? Why do you attend? What do you contribute? Could it be improved? If so, how would you do it? Tell us the answers to some of these questions. All right.
I was elected. I'm Charlie Fagan from Torrance, California. Sadly to say, we only have 2 Callers Association in Southern California, San Diego area and Orange County, which serves the Los Angeles area. As Deborah said, preparation. I was elected into the presidency, and it was kind of a dying. The meetings had no purpose. Being there, all we did is hear complaints. So that was not the way I wanted to spend my Sunday afternoon. We meet all of the odd months of the year. Okay, so it's not an every month situation. We do have a web page of it, and a useful one with the proper information. If you have a web page, keep it current. People can go there to find a caller that do one-night stands, or what kind of a program, or if they're in dire need of a caller, or if a caller gets ill or something like that. Our own members can do that and pass the business around. We firmly believe in that. But meetings have to have a purpose. At the beginning of the year, we sit down with our board members and we map out our year and what we're going to do, whether it's going to be a seminar, bring somebody in. Every meeting has a theme, if not a seminar. The one thing we do is we have a discussion topic. This month, our topic was how fast do we call? We're calling too fast for our dancers. And everybody who goes around and discusses on how fast they set the tempo and this, that, and other. And it brings them into the conversation. We all learn something from it, no matter how long we've been calling. We all get something out of it to do or what to not to do. So it is an education process all the way through. Our association sponsors a new dancers hoedown once a year. We sell pre-sale tickets. And why we do that is because even from the dancers that aren't doing beginners classes, we tell them, hey, support your local caller. Support them. Support the association. It's the way we get education, and we can bring things back to you to strengthen our activity. And they are sometimes advanced dancers buy tickets but don't appear at the dance. They're supporting us. So the pre-sale tickets has paid dividends for our association. And we look forward to entertaining the new dancers. We set the program, and we're adamant, do not cross the red zone. Stay within and entertain the dancers on the floor. Call below them, not above them, to make it an enjoyable experience for the new dancers. We gear the dance to September, January start classes. so everybody is involved. We've given out danglers and like a Purple Heart tip, everything to attract the dancer. We always try to give them something to leave with so they have a memory of that dance. So those are the things our local association are doing, and it's still a learning process for myself, the board, trying to put things together. We don't do a newsletter. Very fortunate that we have a nice webmaster and a nice web page, but all of our members have email. It's an easy way to communicate if you can convince them. It really works well for meeting reminders. I remind the meeting, and I also tell them the topic we're going to discuss at the meeting. One of our members just proudly came up to me and told us he saved the association 41 cents every other month because he got email. So it is a good way. What I do with the people that never had email before is I take that posting and I mail it to them. We got to keep the line of communication open to every member we have. We've invited callers to come in, give seminars, and talk about everything from music to anything. And we poll the membership to find out what they want from an association. My cliche I use, you get out of the association what you put into the association. And those are some of the things that we do in this geographic area. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to share one other thing I forgot while the microphone is going. The local association started this a couple of years ago. It's the coolest thing. Vernon was the one who came up with the idea, so I have to give my number one stepson a little plug here. It was the favorite singing call. All singing calls dance. The favorite singing call voted by the dancers. And what caller you like to hear doing that particular singing call. So, and that's just had to vote. Just write down what your favorite singing call was as a dancer and the caller. And turned it in. And then they took the top 10. And those callers were programmed. And we did not know what order any of it was. We got a little piece of paper when we got to the dance telling us what our number was. And of course, we all went immediately and shared with each other because we all wanted to know, who I got number 3, who's number 4, and all that sort of stuff. But we had over 50 squares of dancers at that dance. And all of the money went into the Partners Association for the local Callers Association decided that they gave some of it to a children's camp and some of it to, it went to charity. And the next year, we did the same thing again. And again, huge, huge turnout. Why? Because the dancers have an investment in it. And they are there to support their caller, the caller that they voted for, that they wanted to see do that particular singing call. So, and they also did the favorite round by their favorite cuer. So the rounds were programmed thusly as well. So you see, they got everybody involved. And it turned out to be an absolute smashing success. So that's something I wanted to share with you guys as well. Now, where did the microphone go? Walt has it. Okay.
Now, have at it.
Waltborough Callers Club of Great Britain. I kind of got, what was the word you used, railroaded? Yeah.
Elected.
Yeah, elected. That's the polite term for it. About a year ago, one of the first things that happened to me after I got elected, I ran into one of our members I'd never seen before. And our association's not that big that I feel like I should know who these members are. He's still an active member. He still pays his dues, but he said, I haven't come to a meeting for about 6 or 7 years. I said, why? And his exact words were, I got tired of going to the same meeting every time. Okay, fair enough. That told me right off the bat we needed to make some changes. Some of the things we've done. We have a cuers section in our callers club. And I found out that the callers were meeting one day over here. And the cuers were meeting on a totally separate day somewhere else. And we had this massive gulf of them and us. So, being the nice, tactful guy I am, I said, that's it. We're not going to do that anymore. When we book a hall now, our cuers meet the same day that we meet, We run joint seminars or joint discussions for all of us, which not only means our attendance has gone up, but we're slowly killing off that us and them sense of division. We also, all our meetings used to take place in London. We meet quarterly. And all our meetings used to take place inside what's called the M25. It's the ring around London. Our meetings now travel. We got them out of London. We asked our regional callers assemblies to host meetings. Find us a hall. We'll do the program. Hopefully this is going to put our meeting attendance up a little bit. It makes it. I can't ask some poor guy to drive from York all the way to London. That's about a 7-hour drive, 6-7 hour drive, something like that. Can't ask him to do that 3 or 4 times a year. So we move the meetings. We had the same situation. We had a big pot of money and nobody was doing anything with it. And I guess great minds think alike because, boy, I'm spending it. I'm using it. We gave the dollars equivalent of $1,000 to support the GSI school last year to help offset. That's a free school. But they have to cover their expenses somehow, so we donated to that. Some of the other things we're doing, I have to look. The traveling meetings was the biggest change. The joint seminars was another change. We have some newer callers in our group, some of them that went through the GSI school last year. And their complaint was there's no follow-up. There's no follow-up to this huge school. So we're running our own 3-day schools because it's very, very difficult in the UK to get somebody to commit to a 5-day school. So we're running 3-day schools with accredited caller coaches, and we're subsidizing the cost for that to keep the cost down for our members. And I was absolutely shocked. We have one coming up in July that we can take a maximum of 20. We need 4 more to max it out. And we have 4 beginner curers who are coming for the curer training. I was absolutely shocked at that kind of response. What else are we doing? There's so many things, so many changes we've made in the last year that I'm just amazed at it. But all of these things hopefully are bringing some of our members back into the meetings. That's about it.
Thank you. I'm impressed. We've had 2 speakers, and everything is on a high, positive note. We haven't any complaints or any... Oh, here we go.
I'm Susan Morris from the greater Seattle area, and our Callers Association is not that healthy. It's a Callers and Cures Association, and it's probably split half and half Callers and Cures. The majority of Cures do not come. The majority of the callers are in the last 2 to 3 years of their calling career. They're at the point of selling records. One of the founding members of the Callers Association is not renewing his membership this year because he's moved on to other things. He's 80. He's not calling anymore. The one thing that we do that's good is we host a new Callers and Cures dance in May every year. So it gives those dancers who want to give it a try a chance to give it a try. We usually have 10 to 15 new Callers and Cures, so that's a good thing. The bad part is we don't really have any way to follow up with them, the ones that really want to continue. So I'm here for ideas. Some of these are good. I can take back, particularly the boring meetings or... Anyway. The other part, the county south of us, they have a Callers Association that's just a couple years old that's outside of the state federation. And we don't have a state Callers Association, which could be one of the issues. They seem to be very successful in getting people there, but they're in an area where all of the clubs have club callers. In the area we're in, the majority of clubs have guest callers, so it's a totally different relationship with the dancers. And when you're in the area where you're calling and you're the club caller and everybody's there and working, developing their career, it's different when you're just sort of by yourself.
With these newer callers that you've got, one of the things that we've tried, we started up a mentoring program, trying to match up a newer caller with a more experienced caller. We put out a request for volunteers. Who would be willing? And we had 22 volunteers said, I'll work with a newer caller. That's something you might want to consider, because lots of times it's really, really hard for somebody with a year or so's experience to walk up to, say, Deborah or Skip and say, hey, I need some help. Y'all are just intimidating, that's all. Where if they know they've got a contact or they've got a name or they've got somebody they can go to with a question or some difficulty, that might help you give them some of the follow-up that they think they need.
Who's next?
Yeah, again, Charlie.
Okay.
Do it. One of the things, you don't have to use a great deal of expense. You can use your resources within. One of the panels that we did in our local association is we had a panel of experience, 4 callers, and collectively we had 200 years of calling experience, where the newer callers and all the callers could basically, it wasn't like stump the chump. What it was is they could ask questions on certain situations that might appear, or a sound, or a choreography, or what do you do to entertain the dancers? How do you assess the floor? All of these things, and it was a very good session. We had the hall, the other dance program was coming in, and we were still kind of in a meeting in it. So we have to do a phase 2 of that. A future one is how a caller and a cuer work together. So we can work with the resources that we have within, the partnership with caller cuer, music-wise, and keeping a nice, flowing program. The other thing we do at our meeting is we have a local record vendor that come in and gives a person a choice to purchase new music and records. A very good idea. We also did is, how many of you ever bought a record that you just can't use or you didn't care for after you got it home? That's never happened. I understand that. We made a collection of all those records and we put it out there when we don't have a record source, because somebody might be looking for a gem. I personally went through and I found repeats of a lot of music I've had. We put those in a thing, $1 a piece. It helps the newer callers, and it helps things like that. And I'm sure callers, I have this theory, records in a dark breed. It's a way to generate a little more revenue to do seminars, and it helps the guys looking for the classics and good music and stuff like that we have had in the past. So they'll strengthen your callers association, and it's just something to bring more attendees to your meetings. Thank you.
I don't know if this is a caller association seminar or Saturday Night Live. There's a lot of humor out there.
And that helps too.
Yes.
Chris Day, Callers Club of Great Britain. Trevor's on the committee. We're also very active with the regional callers assemblies. And we give them updates on the Callers Club and also CALLERLAB, anything that's new. We help giving them talks within their meetings. We generate and motivate them. We also provide record sales, old and new. People that can't get on with records, we actually sell them on their behalf. They give us records and we sell them. So there's new music, old and new, going. Some are out of print. We can get music here and take it back for them. We provide a service. We also have dancers that encourage dancers at the regional assemblies. So when they have mic time and they're doing choreography, the dancers come in and they do an hour and they provide tea and biscuits. That sort of thing, and we just keep them all generated, and they know that they're not out away from the meetings. They are part of the group, and keep them going, keep them interested.
Back down front.
What Chris didn't tell you is that the record shop she and her husband carry around is absolutely huge. Is massive. And bless their hearts, they drag it to every single regional meeting and National Association meetings. And they take it back and forth to the continent. So it's a massive undertaking.
We've had several people commenting that they have caller and cure meetings, both. And we've got Al Shaw back here, the Executive Director of Roundalab. Could we have some words from you? Would you like to comment on that? Does Roundalab have any cure organizations that have callers with them as well? Put you on the spot.
I have no clues.
No clue. But it must make you happy to hear that some CALLERLAB folks have got some round dances involved, some cures involved.
Yeah. I would think that there are some out there, but I don't get that much feedback on the local organizations that have them. The only ones that I have as affiliate members are pretty much all round dance oriented, as far as I know.
All right. Well, I'm married to a cure, and we belong to different associations. We meet in different states and different months and different days. So I really enjoy this, the fact that you are working with both.
Pat Zeman, Victoria, British Columbia. I am a member of Roundalab. My partner is a square dance caller. He's a member of CALLERLAB. Our local association is the Victorian District Caller Teachers Association. They are members of both Roundalab and CALLERLAB, and they are a caller and cure organization combined. We also call and cue Up Island for the Upper Island, with the Upper Vancouver Island Caller Teachers Association, which is also a member of CALLERLAB and Roundalab and is composed of both callers and cuers. However, we do have a problem with the meetings are all the same. Lack of planning for some of them, lack of focus. And I guess what we're looking for here is what to go back to our associations with. That's on our island, our little island off the coast of British Columbia. We are also members of the BC Square and Round Dance Federation. We don't have a province-wide Callers Association or Cures Association. The federation is dancers, callers, cures, everybody in one association. So it's a little different than what some of you were talking about. But for our workshops, we have a meeting after a workshop. For the workshop, we give time to round dancing, we give time to square dancing, and we also try, whenever possible, to look for an area of common interest, whether it's equipment or voice or something like that.
How many of you have any sort of for the province or for the state or for a certain area, any kind of a Hall of Fame? Anybody have that? Okay, a couple of you do. Starting to. Because that has been, the response to that has just been phenomenal. And also, I was going to, when Susan, you were talking about some of the callers in your association, they're in like their last 2 or 3 years. I know that the local Callers Association that I belong to, and also does the state, but they have a designation that is quite a high honor. It's not the Hall of Fame, but it's a very high honor for that local association, and that's lifetime member. They don't pay dues anymore, and they're recognized as someone who has done above and beyond contribution. And the local Callers Association considers that the highest award that they give. So that's something to consider as well, to give a little pat on the back, a little bit of recognition, and maybe even have that caller come in and give a little talk about the before, the now, and any parting words of wisdom or concerns about what they're doing, what we're doing in the activity now. Pardon me. Hands are going up all over the place.
Virgil Forbes from Maryland. I'm actually a member and past president or past chairman of 2 local caller associations, the National Capital Area Square Dance Leaders and the Baltimore Square Dance Leaders. 45 and 52 years respectively as organizations, and both are nearly out of business. And of course, I'm looking for answers. And maybe we're at the end of a cycle, I don't know. Both associations for years revolved around 2 things: running new dances and helping train new callers. Well, starting about 15 years ago, the new dancers started drying up to the point where we couldn't even make hall rent on the new dancer dances. And 5 years after the new dancers dried up, the new callers dried up. I think you can see a chain here. Now, we're an area that's got, Bill Harrison, John Marshall, they're just local callers to us. It's an area with great calling skills, but nobody to pass it on to. The question is, where can we develop a new focus to the association to get all of these very experienced, very knowledgeable men and women to come back to the association? They want to share. There's nobody to share it with.
Bob Gaunt from Denver. I'm current president for Denver Callers and Cures. We have both in our organization. We both meet at the same time, same place, same hall. I sometimes feel that we shortchange our cures because it seems like most of our programs are loaned towards the callers, but I haven't heard any complaints. When I was going to a meeting as a caller, if there wasn't a decent workshop, I heard, why did I waste my time? Why did I get up and come to a 9 o'clock Saturday morning meeting before daylight, So I've tried to change things a little bit. Last summer, we had Deborah and John come in and do a workshop on crams. It was like mind-boggling, okay? It really was. But I have started this year with some different programs. We have had roundtable discussions at each of our meetings, and I have noticed the guys and ladies will stay and take part in these roundtable discussions. Our first one was after-party skits for like on a weekend or so for an after-party ideas, non-dancing ideas, skits and stuff. Our second one was social events for a square and round dance club, over and above square dancing. A lot of good ideas came up. Our latest one was very controversial. What do we do with a new graduate who is not ready to graduate at graduation time?
What do we do with a new graduate?
One other comment is on the approaching Keith. One thing is if your association isn't affiliated with CALLERLAB, I highly recommend that you should be because there's bonuses and benefits from that.
Thank you. Keith Ferguson, Saratoga, California. I really want to throw out questions. I don't have answers. Our association where I am is the Santa Clara Valley Association in California. And at one time we were an extremely successful association. Bill Davis, who many of you know, was really one of the leaders of it. And when he was forced to retire from calling, basically our association has kind of gone downhill. The two things I'd like to find out is one is I'm hearing about state associations. I'm wondering how that works. Do you actually have meetings where callers from all over the state come and so forth? The other question, I'm wondering if anybody has any experience with combined dancer and caller associations. Our area has a dancers association that has also had a lot of political infighting problems. Our callers association, some of our members feel like we should not have anything to do with the dancers association and vice versa, which I find rather, very bothersome. And I've wondered if sometimes it would make sense to combine the two associations, if that could ever happen, because we really are all on the same side, hopefully.
I have a question for you, Keith. At your callers meetings, does the Dancers Association send representatives to your meetings?
We do have a representative from the Dancers Association to our association. In theory, our association president is a representative to the dancers, but he refuses to go to their meetings anymore. So as of the last meeting, I offered and was accepted as the liaison. Their meeting is yesterday, so obviously I missed the first one.
But you've got the right idea. There has to be at least, we have that in the Locals Association, and to address the state idea, yes, we have 2 meetings a year. One is in June for the State Callers Association, because Texas is a big state. So we meet twice a year. Once is in, and that's what's in the bylaws, is the June meeting. And the Callers Association has their meeting and a trail end dance the Thursday before the State Federation has their state festival. And I have found that if the dancers are asked, the dancers officers. When I went to the first one, when I stepped in as president, I haven't been to a dancers association meeting, and I couldn't tell you folks how long, and that's maybe I shouldn't admit that, but it's the truth. And so as president, I went to the meeting, and I established then a relationship, because I showed up and I had faces, and we chit-chatted and chatted over donuts and stuff. Well, then I want to make a presentation regarding our Hall of Fame at the state convention in June. They said, whatever you want. We are behind you 100%. So I found that the relationship is very important. And I realize that personalities sometimes come before principles, unfortunately. And it needs to be the other way around. We need those principles before the personalities. So you have an uphill road, and I commend you for stepping into that role and trying to make that happen.
I've been told that New England has a organization where there's a super organization. By super, I mean overseeing organization of both. And I'd love to hear anything that you might have to add to that.
Yeah, New England is probably half as big as Texas, I think. It is small. We have what we call a cooperative committee, which is made up of delegates from a dancer organization, a caller organization, and a cuer organization. I belong to Tri-State Caller Association, and I think there's about 15 other local caller associations, and we come under the leadership of the New England Council of Caller Associations, NECA. The same thing with the round dancers. They come under NECORTA, New England Cure and Teacher Organizations. And the dancers have their organization. The cooperative committee runs the New England Square and Round Dance Convention. We're having our 50th next month. Okay? The NECORTA, the cures, they supply the cures for the convention. They donate their time and their equipment. NECA supplies the callers. They sound the halls and they help pick the halls and they bring the equipment. They donate all their time and talent calling. And the dancers do other things, the transportation and the advertising and things like that. So there is one big organization made up of delegates from 3 organizations made up of delegates from the 20 or 25 or 30 odd caller and cure associations in New England. So we're reasonably well organized. We're small, nowhere near as big as Texas, but we are bigger than Rhode Island. Okay. We're down to our last 6 or 7 minutes. Mr. Jones in the back has a question or an answer. Probably an answer.
Thank you. Some of you were talking about different organizations for cures and callers. In our local association, the Dancers Association once a year publishes a list of all the callers and cures. Virgil, I'm going to answer your question in a minute if you'll stay long enough. And in that publication, which is once a year and it comes out in July, if you are not a member of the North Texas Callers Association, your name does not get printed in this publication. Therefore, all the cures belong to the North Texas Callers Association. And the association will not publish any caller or cure's name in their publication unless they belong to our association. They don't attend all the time. We've got one cure that attends every meeting and has wound up being president of our association. However, we do get them to attend on occasion by giving them an assignment and a teach to do, and then therefore they will come. Virgil, with your situation, you've got callers in your area that don't attend your meetings anymore, by whatever reason that might be. Without new callers coming in or new dancers coming in to any organization, it's going to die. And that's the only way to build it, is with new people. With it being existing like they are and they don't attend because it's not necessary or they don't really have to, invite them personally. Put a panel together and invite them to be on the panel to discuss the problems of square dancing and calling in your area. Give them a job and they'll come and attend. I've found it happen. I've seen it happen many, many times by simply doing that. Put them to work.
Walt, right down for, whoops, Pam.
Pam, It's on. Pam Clasper from Toronto. Regarding the combined association, we have the Toronto and District Square and Round Dance Association is the full title, and it is callers, cuers, and dancers. And unfortunately, we have, like so many places, a dwindling resource, fewer callers, fewer dancers, same old people doing same old things. And it, over the years, we feel, anyway, has tried to be all things to all people. And that is not really working. It's kind of floundering right now, and we've just sent a survey out to dancers and, what do they want out of the association, et cetera, et cetera. Barry and I have even talked about, forming a little callers association to try and address some issues that are strictly to callers, because dancers come to the meetings wanting something for dancers, callers want something for callers, and it's trying to be all things to all people, and it really is not working. Now, that largely could be personality driven because of the personalities that get involved, but I would just caution that, that different groups do have different interests, and I agree with you completely. We do all have to work together. We are all trying to get to the same place. But, we're in a real sort of a pickle right now, and that's one reason I'm here, is looking for answers, and I have got some good ideas from what I've heard today.
Waltborough Callers Club of Great Britain. To answer your question earlier, we don't run combined organizations either, because our Constitution and Callers Club won't let us. But what we do, we have regional callers assemblies. We just had a new one start up called the London and Home Counties. It's Greater London area. And in parallel with that, some dancers said to me and to the president of the British Dancers Association, can we form a regional federation to run and cooperate with your new callers assembly? And fortunately, the Dancers Association president and I get along real well. And we said, yeah, absolutely. Nope, go for it. So although we can't combine the two, because I have to agree with Pam, I've not seen a lot of great success in combined organizations. The missions for the two are too different. Ours is primarily training. Theirs is all kinds of things, clashing dates, and they have different objectives than we do. But the two run in parallel, and they cooperate so far. You're going to have political infighting. Where you have dancers and callers, you're going to have politics. The only way we've been able to keep some of that under control, it has to come from the top down. The attitude of cooperation has to start with the leaders. One of the first things that Tony Metcalf, who's the British Dancers Association, and I did was make sure that everybody knew that he and I are thinking along the same lines, the things we want to see happen. You've got to set that attitude from the very first day. That cooperation has to be there. So we've had to, what's a polite way to say it? We've had to break a few egos along the way, or bruise a few egos or stuff like that. But slowly, we're starting to see this. The other thing, and then I promise I'll shut up, Deborah. You talked about combined organizations. How many of you have heard of ECTA, the European Callers and Teachers Association? Although it says callers and teachers, we have callers, cuers, contraprompters, and clogging instructors all belong to that organization. And you don't think that makes for some wild meetings?
I have one thing also that I wanted to suggest is I think in some of the things that we get together for, we've forgotten anymore how to be a little silly and how to have some fun. And on this, the last page of this State Callers newsletter is our Trail End Dance in June before the state convention. The State Callers Association, the officers call it, and it was me who came up with the theme for this year because I like to do that kind of stuff. The name of the state convention is Promenade the Rose. And so I thought it would be fun for our Trail End Dance to have something to do with that. So it's Run for the Roses. And all of the callers will be dressed as jockeys. And we will all have our little stick horses. All right? Everybody on my executive board, I said, pick a color. Give me the name of your horse. And they're all men. Every one of them wrote back, had it done just like that. So I've got my whole roster up, and I said, you're responsible for getting your outfit and your color. If you don't like your color, tell me, I'll give you another color. But this is what I get red, and the rest of you can fight over the rest of them. And so we've all got our horses. We got our horses' names. At the end of the dance, we're going to have a horse race. And it's going to be one of those like they had on a cruise ship where you throw the dice and then whatever number that horse is, that horse gets to move one spot ahead. And so we're still figuring out the fine-tuned particulars for how to have the winner and what the winner would get and the people that quote-unquote bet on that horse. But let's put a little bit of fun and silliness back into some of this. You know, we've all gotten so stodgy and proper. And no offense, Chris, but I can't help but say it like that. But and if you want to see a bunch of rascals, hang out with the Brits, okay? I'm not saying it like, you know, that they're no fun, because they are. But what I'm saying is let's relax a little bit on some of this stuff. So think up a theme or two and have a little bit of fun with it for a change. A rose queen.
Well, it's 2:00 and our session is scheduled to end, and I think I'm going to go away here with a very, very good feeling about the positive comments that come out of this group about caller associations in general. There were one or two little trouble spots, but basically I think they're all healthy and thriving. You all agree? Well, that's good. That's good. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for staying. And how about a nice round of applause for your panelists, Deborah, Carroll-Jones.